So here's a quick video about alcohol ink. I hope you'll join me in my workshop that's coming up. First, we start out with some very humble tools. We have isopropyl alcohol. We have canned air. You can buy that from your average Walmart or pharmacy. We have some foam brushes and some paint brushes. And here you see I've squirted that isopropyl alcohol onto a sheet of UPO. UPO is synthetic paper. And in fact, alcohol ink, the only slightly odd thing is that it must be on impervious surfaces that don't suck up. Now we've put one tiny drop of black ink on our UPO paper, which is afloat with isopropyl. If you're a watercolorist, it'll help to think of the alcohol acting as the water does. But here's the big difference. Alcohol evaporates a lot faster than water does. So you work fast and things go dramatically one way or another. The beginning of this video really lets the ink be in the driver's seat, and in fact the whole process is a dance between the control and beauty of the accidental processes of ink with alcohol and with a more careful, intentional working of those happy accidents. So we've put black on and we put blue on. And I'm not sure if you can tell from the video, but this glossy surface is still very much awash with alcohol. So we're getting all kinds of dramatic effects. And frankly, sometimes I think in this beginning phase of painting, almost everything I see there is so marvelous. I can blow on it and get a different kind of blending. Tilting matters. Having patience matters. Really, it's kind of like a high. It's mesmerizing. And then if you add a few control techniques like canned air, beginning to move that alcohol a little bit more forcefully across. And of course, then that dries the alcohol. And you'll see the edges where alcohol gets to an edge and forms a line very much like watercolor, except, of course, it all happens rather fast and rather without control. You begin to add other colors if you'd like, although you can make a wonderful, wonderful composition in monochrome. And you have purples, perhaps, and oranges, which are opposite on the color wheel, so they make a lovely subtle mix when they begin to mix. And you put some more blending solution, which is a slightly adapted version of alcohol. And we're doing some more tilting. We're watching to see what the ink wants to do. It's sort of as if the ink is painting the picture for a while until a certain point where the artist begins to see something they recognize and want. And at this point, I'm continuing to blow the air, but I'm not really seeing anything that I want. And as a matter of fact, I'm noticing that I'm getting less motion, less fluidity with the pigment. So I'm going to add some more alcohol, and everything gets very fluid, which means all kinds of dramatic things can happen. I put some dark ink down. I believe this is a purple from the Tim Holtz Adirondack series. Then I put some white, a mixative. This is very much like changing from watercolor to gouache, a version of that in alcohol ink, because this mixative, which is a white mixative, is super dramatic, as you can begin to see. And I've now picked up my airbrush, and you begin to see the ability of these inks to blend into almost unthinkably gorgeous combinations. Let's fast forward a while, and I've begun to get a composition that I recognize and I like. For me, this looks like the interior of a cave, and that yellow spot over on the left is the opening onto the outside. So I recognized that feeling, and I chose to go with that particular feeling. The landscape kind of came to me. I did not design it, but I recognized it, and that will be a part of what we'll learn, is paying attention to what your medium does, and then learning some tools that once you begin to hone in on the composition that the ink has presented you with, how can you sculpt that? Here we're working with Q-tips dipped in either alcohol or blending solution to add some emphasis to that opening to the outside that I perceived. Um, I continue to do that. I clear up the color, and then I begin to add pigment on the side to make that opening a little bit more distinct. And at this point, we're not doing it all the same kind of technique as we did before. We're not letting it flow. We know how much ink was on our applicator and how much alcohol. So we won't be having those sudden splurges that make for a divine accident. But at some point, we're willing to take the wheel as an artist and do most of the steering. So we'll learn in our workshop about a whole variety of tools, some of them very homemade, some of them kind of specialized. Here I believe I've gotten a cotton cloth with some blending solution and using a fine touch to add that pigment over to the side to make that opening just a little bit more apparent with a little bit more contrast. Coming back in to add some rays of light. Some of this is possible if you have a level of skill and you understand your medium, and sometimes you'll still have accidents. This is not a medium that gives you ultimate control, but it is a medium that allows for gentle guiding and gentle recognition. And frankly, as an artist, I think there's a lot of growth in relinquishing control and also being able to come back and make decisions. So this piece, I've left it as it is. Not sure I'll leave it there entirely, but it already has all kinds of effects that you can imagine are pretty impossible to get intentionally. Here's another set of what I call beautiful accidents. These are paintings that the ink painted. Almost all of these, I made very few intentional lines, yet I still think there's incredible grace. But now I want to show you how the accidental lines, as you see here, these are lines that you can sort of recognize what have been made, can begin to be sculpted into something very intentional. So you have an ethereal, expressive landscape with the waves coming in and a sky in the background. We can continue that. This one is using a lot of the white snow cap color that you saw earlier to give a gouache effect. And this as well uses snow cap. So you see those accidental lines, but can you see how with more and more familiarity, they become glorious lines for the sea and the sky? And then finally, we'll begin to see how we can begin with the accidental lines that you see in the background and end up with beautiful, precise, lovely images using a kind of dry brush with those same vibrant inks. It's hard to imagine that you can go from this kind of chaos, where the ink is all over the place and you have no idea what you're doing, to some beautiful, expressive landscape that gets at an emotion that you can't imagine being able to get to. And then finally, with some practice and some understanding of your tools, a precision and ethereal feeling like this. I hope you'll join me for our workshop. I'm really looking forward to it.